So wait, are you 22 or is that?
I'm 23.
You're 23. Wow. I don't know why I thought you were older than that, man. That's,
yeah, I get a lot of stuff across the board about that because I think I carry myself a little bit older than I am, but I've got such a baby face. So people tell me I could be anywhere between 17 and about 29.
There's a certain level of maturity in the music you make that I think I'd love to talk to you about how you've achieved that at such a young age, because I think that's also something that takes a lot of people a lot longer to figure out.
Well, thank you, dude. I appreciate that. I feel like I only started deducing my music as like mature within the past couple of years. Just from the way I grew up. But like, honestly, I've just been doing it for a very, very long time since I was about 10, 11 years old. So a lot of people start a little bit later, which is why some people get confused when they find out my age. I don't know.
When you say you started at like 10 or 11, what are we talking? What were you doing at that time?
So that was FL Studio. I've been making music since I was 5. To be honest, some of the older stuff was just me in the basement with my dad. He was playing guitar and we had a cracked, I believe, copy of Cool Edit Pro, or it was stolen from somebody else's CD, which Adobe
I spent
bought.
a lot of hours on Cool Edit Pro. Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's the greatest DAW ever. But my dad would just chug away at a guitar riff he'd write. And then my ADHD crazed 5-year-old mind would just go to town on the songs. And so we've got about 80 songs. We used to be called Old Art. That was the band name. So that was my first time in front of a DAW, if you will. But shortly after that, I figured, every band has a guitarist and a singer, but they also need a drummer. So I got my first drum kit when I was 6, which I don't know what kind of crack my parents were smoking when they thought that was a good idea. But got behind the kit and then kind of just went from there. So I've been writing music ever since I was 5, basically.
And would you say you could play the drums? Do you play instruments as well?
So hilarious story, actually. I played drums for a really long time in middle school, high school for concert band, marching band. I did rock recitals and stuff with the music school that I had been going to on the side to learn how to get better and better at drums. But it's been about 3 years since I was behind the kit. I used to play in an early 2000s rock cover band with my sister, just at local bars and stuff. It was just for fun.
Oh, hell yeah. Wait, what kind of covers are we talking about?
Weezer, stuff like that.
Oh, hell yeah.
As far from my actual music as possible, but it's a lot of fun to get behind the kit. But anyway, it's been a while. I've been trained obviously in metal and jazz, but I kind of put it to the side as music started taking off in the electronic realm. And then 3 or 4 weeks ago, my friend from Maine was visiting from out of town. It was her first ever out-of-state show, I think. And so she was like, yo, we've got a 3-piece band. It's me on vocals, someone on guitar and someone on bass. And then, I just programmed some backing tracks with the drums. So I kind of jokingly was I'll learn your set on the drums. Why not? And she just makes hyper pop punky stuff or whatever. Just well, actually, all the parts are pretty easy. You could probably just figure it out on the fly. And I'm honestly, bet. So we pulled up to the venue and we just used the band after her's kit. And I just bullshitted my way through an entire set. And I listened back to the videos and I'm whoa, I actually sound pretty good. I'm happy the muscle memory is still there. It made me miss it. There's something really visceral about playing live music rather than being behind the decks.
Dude, there really is. It's a totally, totally different thing. And it's, I had a similar thing where I was playing the trumpet when I was younger and I was in some bands, poorly singing and poorly playing the guitar. And there's something to it. I mean, I love being on stage and performing in any aspect. And I love DJing more than anything, but it's playing instruments and doing it with a group, having that collective energy. You can't really compare it to anything, Yeah,
the closest you can get is a back-to-back, but it's still just there's a chaos and rather than working as a team, it's more so one-upping each other. I don't know. I really missed it. And I hope I can get to some point in my career where I can bring in some live band aspect or something, just to combine that viscerality with a big live show with the music that I've written. But
yeah,
that could be tough with the Haplet stuff.
I could see you doing that, man, because I think there's a lot we could talk about in terms of your style, your aesthetic, your music overall. But one thing that has always stood out to me. And I've followed your music for a long time. So, up to the new album, but like, I think I go pretty far back as well with some of your stuff. And a lot of your earlier work too, there's this like jazzy, experimental kind of bent to it that I could see really lending itself to adding some live instrumentation as well. Like, I think there's so many DJs and producers who bring in a live instrument in a way I don't like, to be honest, where it's just kind of like, here's a guy who's going to play guitar over my full song that already exists and doesn't need a guitar,
My favorite is when you go to a live show and there's already drums in the backing track, and then you have a drummer and the snares are like slightly off. It's like, just pick one, just export the tunes with no side chain, please.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing. But all of that is to say, I could see a future live show of yours done in a thoughtful way that was like really interesting. I don't know. I think the kind of music you make lends itself to that possibility.
Heck yeah, it would be sick. But anywhooms, are we in the interview, or are we about to start?
I think we are. Yeah.
Okay, let's go. Easy enough. Before we continue, I just want to refill my water because I have not had enough today. And
absolutely.
I just reached for it.
I got a couple beverages on my desk right now.
Yeah, it's a good show. I have a Moxie here. Have you heard of Moxie? It's like a Maine exclusive soda.
No.
I was just in Maine a couple weeks ago. That's some whole other lore. I'd love to keep this interview more to the music, but also I'll chat about this. My I have like Russian Jewish heritage.
Okay.
On the side that's not UK, obviously. So third blood, maybe we'll call it that. Right. But anyway, in the late 19th century or something, or like early 20th century, a lot of Russian Jewish immigrants came to southern Maine, and including my great grandparents or something like that on my mom's side. And they had a hotel that was one of the first like seaside resorts in southern Maine. And it burned down in the 70s, but the owners made a pact with the local township to turn the land that it burned down on into a park. But it got really, really buried in the files. And so it never happened. They ended up opening a restaurant there, and no one else in the family had known about this. But my my second cousin's mom, or some family dynamic, Jenny, we'll call her that.
Jenny. Shout out to Jenny.
Yeah, shout out Jenny. Jenny is friends with the local administration or something like that. And so they found this and were like, yo, you're supposed to have a park in your name. And she's like, what the heck? So they found like a green space. And over the past like 2-3 years, they've just been figuring out like how to coordinate making this park exist. And so we went up there for the dedication, which was sick. Really cool. I've never had that happen. So I got to meet the mayor. He said like, oh, you make electronic music? I'll check it out. And I'm like, yeah, sure you will. Like, but it was really wholesome. And while I was there, I got my fix of Moxie, which not sponsored. It's fantastic. It's strangely medicinal. It's the best way to describe it. But
like
it's really nice.
Herbal or something?
Yeah. It tastes a little bit like cough syrup, but like nicer.
I got to check that out. That's amazing. Well, no, I'm really glad you told that. That was fascinating.
Yeah. If you're in Maine, I'm a bit of a soda freak.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I just got back playing in Detroit last month, and they have a soda there called Faygo, which is also like fantastic. Oh, do you know about that one?
I mean, do you know about Insane Clown Posse is the real question.
Yes, kind of Juggalo stuff.
Oh, Juggalo stuff. So Faygo was popularized by the Insane Clown Posse because at every one of their shows, they have giant jugs of Faygo and they spray it on the crowd. That's been their thing for decades and was like what brought Faygo to like the national consciousness.
No way. I didn't even know that. I guess I just don't know much Juggalo lore. I just stumbled on it and was like, ooh, soda I don't know about. I had a field day when I was in Japan this year. I'm not going to lie. Like you get to these giant shelves worth of sodas and you have your Coca-Cola. They have melon Fanta, which is like unbelievably good. And then you just have all this stuff that like, I don't speak Japanese despite my hat. This says Skybreak. My partner got this for me.
Oh, nice. And
she sent it through several translators, including my sister, who actually does speak Japanese, to confirm that this says Skybreak and not like douchebag or something. Right. But yeah, it's just like you look at a shelf of things that you just like can't really read and you go off the colors, right?
Dude, it rules. Like, even the vending machines, like...
Yeah. No, I was so surprised because you see, when I see a vending machine, I imagine like I'm going to get ripped off for a very sugary drink. But at those machines, you can get like lovely herbal teas and stuff. But I was just having a blast at the 7-Elevens and the Family Marts, just like, this is a blue drink. Let's try it. And then it's like, oh, that's sick. I'm going to get that again tomorrow.
That's exactly what I did. The first time I was ever there, it was like me and Wookie and a few other people. And that was like one of the standard daily activities, was just every time we passed a vending machine, be like, all right, I guess I'll try the purple one now.
Yeah, that's how it goes. I was shell shocked. I think I wasn't expecting it to be so well optimized for non-Japanese speakers, but maybe it's because I stuck to quite touristy areas like Tokyo, Kyoto. We played in Nagoya. Nagoya was the furthest I felt in terms of like cultural displacement, if that makes sense. Because I feel like in Tokyo, you know, you have all the otakus that are on their like dream trip walking around and stuff. Actually, it's hilarious. I bumped into a fellow kind of old school rushdown color-based artist just on the street while I was there. I was in a Don Quixote, which is like their general store touristy thing, right?
Yeah, huge. Yeah.
And I walked out and I'm like, dude, that looks like Ipsium's doppelganger. Like, what the fuck? So I just texted his Facebook Messenger or something, just like, yo, bro, I just passed your doppelganger in Japan, just like letting you know I'm thinking about you. And he's like, wait, bro, what? Like, I'm in Akihabara right now. I'm like, you're kidding, what? So I go back. I'm just like, Josh, what the fuck? Like, we're in a city of 19 million people, and I stumbled into the one other color-based artist. So he was on his honeymoon with his partner, which was it was fucking crazy. So yeah, we just like went out to dinner and shot the shit, and it was like, well, we're both 5,000 miles from home, and this happened.
Dude, but, that rules. That absolutely rules. Were you out there playing shows?
Yes, I did a co-headline tour with Chime in Nagoya and Tokyo. And we sold out Tokyo, and we got really close in Nagoya. And they were two of my favorite shows I've ever played in my life. I was like actually shocked the energy there and just how many people knew my stuff. Because at the end of the day, I'm still, in the grand scale of things, quite a small artist in the American markets. So like, you know, we've been given headline offers, but we've been intentionally rejecting them until I'm at a point where I feel like I can really like say something with a live show, both in terms of budget and like how I'm able to put it on and, you know, just demand, right?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I could go play a 300 cap room in Seattle. Probably could have 2 years ago and probably sell like 150 tickets, let's say. But that's not going to get me other opportunities, right? If I wait until I'm big and people are like, why hasn't Skybreak done a headline show? Like whatever. But we played a 300 cap room in Tokyo and we sold it out like 5 days before the show. And I was just like, holy shit. And we got damn close in Nagoya. And I was like, okay, well, maybe this is just like a club people go to. Maybe this is soft ticket. Nope. Hard ticket. Everyone in the room knew every single song. Craziest energy. Like 7 mosh pits in the sets. People singing along. And then at the end of the show, there was like a line all the way around the block with like a meet and greet. And everyone had prepared gifts for me and Harvey. And so at some point, I think I had some like not so good Family Mart thing before the show, and so I really had to use the restroom. So I'm like, oh my god. So like I run to the restroom. I was also very sleep deprived because our Nagoya show the night previously had ended at 5 a.m. and I got the 8 a.m. Shinkansen.
Nice.
So 1 hour of sleep, but I was on the bathroom. My circadian rhythm is just kicking my ass. And the head promoter, Sako, shout out Sako, he's incredible, like knocks on the stall door and he's like, everyone's still waiting for you. And I'm just like, what? So I go back out. The line literally paused, stopped. Nobody came forward to just get pictures with Harvey, right? They were just like, no, we will be extremely patient until both of you are here. I like felt like a celebrity. I'm like, yo, I'm like admittedly, like I'm still obviously on the come up, but at this point, I'm like a C-list dubstep artist, right? In the States. And then here I'm just getting treated like a fucking celebrity. Like it was unbelievable.
Sometimes that's the way it works. Absolutely. I mean, that's so cool. That just rules. And 2 quick points and then I'll let you go get water. But I just want to make sure people listening internalized what you said at first about waiting to do headline shows, even though you're getting offers for them. So smart. It's something a lot of up and coming artists do not do, to their detriment, I think. And it's just, I wanted to make a point of that for anybody listening who's, starting their career in some point of that. Like, you always, the longer you wait to like do the big thing, almost every time, the better it's going to be. But secondly, the you doing well in Tokyo doesn't really surprise me. I feel like you make the kind of like you make Tokyo music, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I kind of do. Yeah. Well, going back to the first point as well, I've seen countless acts that just like sign on with a big agency and the agent's super duper bullish, right? Because it's like I can make a lot of money by pulling these offers while promoters don't have a perception of the hype of this artist. So they like book the shit out of their first headline tour, and then every stop sells like 150 tickets out of a 300 to 400 cap room, right? And then it's like you suddenly just don't see them the next year. And I've always wanted to avoid that. That's why I'm still kind of like with a smaller agency and still just waiting till I can do something as dope and hard tickety as Tokyo. And then just like more selfishly, I always feel like those kinds of shows are more fun, where you are in front of a crowd where everybody's there for you. They fuck with your music. They will listen to the supports that you are putting on and possibly fall in love with their stuff. Like that's the type of shows I want to play, right? I'd much rather play to 200 people in a closet, but every single one knows the whole of Half-Blood, let's say, right? As well as the old shit. Than like playing to 2,000 people that know my 2 or 3 biggest songs and then are just expecting me to play every time we touch mashed with country rhythm, mashed with something you can hear at any other DJ set. And like, respect to those songs, they're great. I actually have a great every time we touch mash with Euphoria Rush. That's a tongue twister, and I love playing that out because it always gets a great reaction. But yeah, it's not necessarily what I want to be known for. I want to be known for my music and not my like mashup skills.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as somebody who loves mashups and edits and all that kind of stuff, like I think that's a totally valid form of expression too. But I know what you're saying, and I think the thing about waiting, I mean, it's just smart business wise. It's just smart anyway. I do think for any up and comers who are listening, if you're able to find a way to get some reps performance wise, that's a good thing to do in general too. But you want to try to sort of separate it from the brand, if that makes sense. So like
Yes.
either doing it before anybody knows who you are and just playing a ton of shitty bar gigs, opening slots, all like as much as you can do, invaluable as much as you can do of that. But then, yeah, once you're really in the building phase where you're like, this is my shot that I'm going to take here, then you do have to be, I think, a lot more selective and sort of really then the longer you can kind of like just, edge it out, is like the better.
No, absolutely. And I think in my particular case, I never aspired to be a DJ whatsoever, which is ironic. I was always like production first. I always figured like this was just going to be like a fun side thing of mine that I just loved to do. But in about 2020, my management was like, yo, like when the pandemic's over, you're getting a lot of hype right now. You should probably learn to DJ. And I was like, oh, fine. And the way that I kind of got decent from a performer standpoint, obviously I've been playing drums for a while, so I kind of have a little bit of synergy on stage or whatever. But I just would invite people over to my college dorm at the time and just be like, hey, I'm going to put together a set. Just like watch me, like whatever. Let's have a good time and open up some Coronas, like see what happens, right? And even just from doing that in like a really low pressure environment, when I eventually did get my first few shows after the pandemic, they were all like sick, right? Like they were these big offers, and looking back, I didn't do the best job. They were a little cringeworthy. I mean, it's kind of jokes. My first show ever was opening doors for Slander at the Tacoma Dome. So I'm just stood in front of this like empty 15,000 cap venue, and I've got like messy ass haircut, like kind of awkward. My dance moves are very like, like right. It's a little uncomfortable. But in fact, I almost wish that I had a little bit more practice going in before that. But I mean, whatever. I learned through trial by fire. And I guess the point of the matter is like use a combination of low pressure environments and see where your music takes you if that's the route that you're trying to go. But if you're strictly in DJing, maybe the bar and gig thing is better.
Yeah. I don't even know that one is better than the other, but I think no matter which side of it you fall on, getting the reps in is only going to help you if you're able to do it, Like even if the production is your passion and the shows are kind of a side thing, like you'll still have more fun at the shows if you have some experience behind you, I think. Or at least feel better about your performances, that kind of thing. That's so funny that your first ever gig was in an arena.
Yeah, I still think that is on a technicality the biggest cap I've played. So it's only been downhill.
I was going to say it's all
I really
downhill,
fell off.
man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man. But that's funny too, because that shows, I've had those experiences so many times of a thing that you think you're supposed to want when you're starting off. It's like, oh, I can't wait till I play a huge show in an arena. What a dream that would be. And then you get there and you're literally playing to like an empty, cavernous space. And then it's over and you're kind of like, wait, did it happen? Did I do it?
It did sort of fill out by the end of the set,
good.
but it's the same deal. I mean, for me, like my aspiration isn't necessarily to play arena shows. If we get there, that's fucking awesome. I would love to do that. But my goal is to put on a performance that's like authentically me, dope, and that you can't get from anyone else. And whether that is to 200 people or 1,000 people or 3,000 people, whether that's at Shrine in Los Angeles or like, I don't know, what's a tiny ass room? My my mom's house, right?
There you go.
That's what it's about for me. And playing to those people that are actually there for me. So if I get to arena size, sick.
You know what you just made me think of too is, it's like a trend now to do like pop-up sets in weird locations, like in the back of a deli, that kind of thing. The next wave of that 100% is going to be someone playing in their parents' house with like their parents moving around in the background. That's 100. If that hasn't happened yet, it's going to happen like next week. That's gotta be incredible. The next one.
Actually, though, dude, I had a ridiculous idea for a pop-up. I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to pull this off, but I think it'd be jokes to do one like in a bus stop, because I did one on the subway earlier this year, which was a logistical nightmare, but also really cool. But I just think it'd be funny to be like, yo, pull up to like 9th and Finch, right? Go to the bus stop there, and then just have 30 people surrounding this little glass thing, and like the decks are set up on the bench.
Yeah, that would be fun. I like that.
Hilarious.
And then you'd get like some, the bus would let some people off and you'd get their reactions, and that could be fun.
Yeah. No, precisely. It'd be really tough to pull off, because what's great about a subway is like you're moving and so the doors open, and if security sees you, it's just like, shit. Like, there's not much you can do about it. But at a bus stop, you're like static in one position that you really shouldn't be in.
Yeah, that's very true. And I think Subway too, they're used to performers. And so even if they catch you, they're just like, get out of here,
Yeah. Yeah, nah, for sure.
But wait, do you want to get some water?
Yeah, I've forgotten about that.
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure before we go too far.
Speaking of things that are logistically hilariously difficult, right after this, I'm driving up to my grandfather's house to do a shoot. I've got an official remix for Virtual Riot coming out soon, which I'm really looking forward to, because he's one of those artists that made production less terrifying for me when I was just starting out. And it's for his Stealing Fire album. So we're trying to like recreate the cover art. And do like a whole scene with like, we're doing like a camcorder multicam thing, and I've set up like a torch, and I'm gonna light it on fire and just like recreate the scene and do like a flashy edit, and
oh, that sounds
stuff like
cool.
That. Yeah,
so where are you located?
I'm in New Jersey, so couple maybe like 40 minutes out of New York.
Right. But, is that where you were born as well?
Yeah, born and raised here. My dad is from London, so we kind of traveled between New York and London quite a bit as a kid. But
got you. Yeah, I mean, obviously that's the Half-Blood album inspiration, right?
Those are the cities.
The back and forth. Yeah, that's cool, man. I mean, the Jersey side is interesting to me too, because dance, like electronic music in Jersey, has a lot of history, but doesn't really get talked about nearly as much as New York for obvious reasons.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of genres have been invented here just because it's very densely populated, and you've got a big like Jersey club scene, especially in like Southern Jersey and like the Shore and things like that. But ultimately, we are sandwiched between two big markets, which are New York and Philly. So most of the shows go through there because they figure, we can get more people to come out to this. But yeah, I don't know. I like it here because I'm an hour from both, or like 40 from New York and an hour from Philly. So
Dude,
any
it's
show
nice.
that comes through either market is freaking swell, you know?
Yeah,
Easy to get
No,
to.
that's that. I totally relate to that. That's like when I used to live in San Diego in California. It was like, I mean, San Diego's a city in and of itself, and it gets shows and whatever. But obviously, it's sort of like the little cousin to LA. And it was the same for me. I was like, I just go up to LA whenever I want to, but I don't have to live in LA. It's great.
Even better. Are you based there now?
No, I'm actually in DC now, so I'm not that far from you. Yeah.
I love DC. That's sick. Me and my partner are talking about after she gets her master's moving down there. Just like it's one of those cities that immediately made me feel magical when I went there for the first time. Do you know what I mean? Like you expect it to be this sort of boring governmental town. And then you go there and it's just like, wait, this is cool. This has like a culture and a buzz to it. I have a joke story, actually. I was just there like a couple weeks ago. One of my students was playing his first ever show. So I just like took the Amtrak down. And
that's so cool.
My partner and I were
the show.
It's at a new spot called Pop-Up District. It's like a food courts in Falls Church, which is maybe like 20 minutes out of DC.
You know what? I've heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah. It was really cool, honestly. I had a great time there. But yeah, my partner and I were like, okay, let's do some like touristy stuff because we're here. Why not? So we booked an Uber to take us from his place in Northern Virginia because we were staying with him to DC. And the Uber was just this dipshit, pardon my French, that was just kept missing turn after turn. And he pulled us into the Pentagon. And so me and my girlfriend are like joking about it. We're like, oh, there's an Uber at the Pentagon, like whatever, all the jokes. And then all of a sudden a cop pulls up. And it's just like, you're not supposed to be here. What are you doing here? And the Uber driver's like, oh, sorry. So we add like 30 minutes to the ETA because we're just sitting there while the cop is like writing him up and background checking him to make sure he's not a terrorist.
Well, I was going to say, you can't just accidentally pull into the Pentagon. That they don't let you do that.
Yeah, I was just like, how do you make a wrong turn into the Pentagon? I think there are a few worse wrong turns to make.
That's a pretty bad one. Yeah. Oh man.
That was pretty unbelievable. But yeah, I love the district. I could literally see myself living there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, hey, if you guys eventually end up coming down here, man, I'll probably still be here. So definitely hit me up.
Good to know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But wait, we were talking about Jersey and shows, and there was something I was going to ask you. Oh, just in general, like, you know, growing up there, and we'll talk about the London half as well in a minute, but the Jersey half for you, was there anything locally going on music wise that caught your ear, either like shows you would go see, whether it was there or New York or Philly, or just like kids around you who are also making music, like anything that really flipped switches for you early on that kind of led to your musical evolution?
I mean, to be honest, like when I started getting into electronic music, it was when it was in that like divot from like 2013 to 2019, before it was like in the period where it like wasn't cool to like electronic music. I think it's finally like coming back that it's like a cool trendy thing to like, right? But that's like just when I was getting into it and like that old school Monster Cat era. So I was the only kid in my school that listened to it. And I was like kind of bullied for it, which sucks, right? And it always kind of felt like I was looking at all the things happening in New York and Philly through a looking glass because, again, I was a kid when I was starting to get into this stuff. My first ever show that I went to was Electric Zoo in 2021 when I was like 18 years old, right? Because that was the first one I was like allowed to attend. And so through that, I felt like if anything, you know, I felt more raised by the internet in my early years, like just living vicariously through it and everything. But what's become really ironic is the exact kids that used to kind of bully me as like the nerdy EDM kid. I now see them posting I'll go back on my personal Instagram from high school sometimes. I'll see them posting them going to like a Subtronics show or they're going to Lost Lands. I even had someone that used to like relentlessly pick on me pull up to my set with Eric at Crater last year at Lost Lands. I like saw them in the crowd. I was like, there's no fucking way. Like I didn't say what up or anything, but I was like, there's like, that's unfathomably them. Like what is going on?
Oh man,
So,
that's a weird moment. I mean, yeah, you hear those stories a lot of like, yeah, people kind of just like to jump on the bandwagon, and then when it's not cool, for sure. In like high school, you get a lot of that bullying kind of stuff. Middle school, I mean, it sucks, man. That's too bad. Did you have at least like some kind of community locally, even if it wasn't musically?
yeah, of course. I mean, I wasn't like completely a shut in or whatever. And what was really helpful was at the songwriting school that I was going to, we used to, or the music school that I was going to, they had a songwriting class for their top students. So every other Friday or something like that, we'd all like get together and show each other stuff that we're working on. And many of the other people there were working on guitar and piano and things like that. But again, a lot of my community, I kind of consider the internet like a third parent, if that makes sense. Like, a lot of the communities that I found were the ones that were into that niche, like Monster Cat, Electro House, melodic stuff, right? And I kind of gravitated towards those people. And then as I started getting to like 15, 16, I'd finally get to like start meeting them in person and be like, oh, these people are in fact real and not 45-year-olds attempting to lure me to their house so they can steal my money and worse. So yeah, I feel like a lot of my communities were internet based, and there were some great ones like Form. I don't know if you've heard of that. They're like kind of a charity company thing run by a bunch of people around my age, actually. And every year they do like an all-nighter challenge where everybody everyone gets 24 hours to write, mix, master, just fully create a song. They submit it, and the team goes through and picks their 45 favorite ones and puts it out as a compilation. And all of the proceeds for the rest of the time go to a specific charity. So, for example, maybe it's the Trevor Project, which is like a suicide hotline for LGBTQ youth people. Or they've done one for, like, there was one for the Bail Project when George Floyd was killed a couple of years ago. And yeah, they're just really, really good. And I met a lot of people through doing that that have had a really profound impact on the way that I write music.
That's really interesting. I mean, can you say more about that? Because I think it's sad, but it's like so rare to hear, EDM producers link any kind of like social awareness with EDM. Like in so many conversations I have, it's very sad how rare that kind of thing comes up. And to hear you say that it actually influenced your music, I'm interested in what way.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't say I put a lot of my political views and stuff into my music. I think it would frankly do it a bit of a disservice because at the end of the day, I'm trying to make stuff that's fun and serves as like an escapism.
And I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm the same way with this podcast. I think people who have listened long enough know where I lie, but like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff I don't say on here for similar reasons.
Yeah, same here, especially in the recent times. Regardless of what I was saying, yeah, I mean, this company was really good for that. I feel like the social justice things and the awareness that they were bringing up was very important. I think. Oh man, I'm sorry. I'm like, when you get me fueled up in a.
I'm the same
like
way.
That,
We could do a whole separate podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, a whole separate podcast on how fucked it is.
It's so fucked.
But actually, I think like I'm trying to figure out a way how to word this that isn't like kind of fucked. But actually, one of my first like big moments that led to me being able to do this full time was over the pandemic. Disciple. Through, which is like a dubstep label. I'm sure you know of them.
I know Disciple, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. They did their biggest remix contest of all time in 2020, where they gave out stems for every song, or gave out stems for a song by every artist on their roster. And so I had looked and I saw there weren't many people remixing the song Parachute by Olivers. So I decided maybe like a day or two before the deadline, fuck it, I'm going to try my best. Let's see what happens. George Floyd was just murdered a couple of weeks before. So I was like, let me do a stream where I stream for an entire 24 hours. I make the entire song start to finish. And all of the donations that I get will go to the Bail Project. And then I will match them. And so through doing that, I don't want to say that my altruism from that led to my eventual win, because I don't think that was the case at all. But it still felt really good to have this sort of cause that I really cared about at the time motivating me to like continue pushing on. Because the point was like, how much can we amass in the 12 hours while people are getting this production tutorial in real time, watching me
Right.
make this song, which is quite rare, I guess, for someone to promise that they will finish something by the end. And, sure enough, I did. And, I sent it in, and I had Waterfall ready to go as well. And they were collecting stuff for their like Afterlife compilation. And as that came out, I also had my EP done. So I feel like that led to a series of events which got me to a much better place career-wise than I was. Not that much is connected to the cause, but
No, but I
like,
actually really love that, because that's, I think that's such a nice way to just keep your values next to you as you're going through your career. And I think for a lot of artists, it can be daunting or scary or confusing to try to figure out, like, well, how do I align the music I'm making with my views and my politics and all that. And I'm not saying everybody has to do that, but I think that example of you, it's just, in some ways you could say, like, it's just a small thing. Like, you did this and you made it a fundraiser for a cause that you back. And it didn't have to be more complicated than that. But the fact that you did it, then I think informs the way the music is made. And, it's a shared experience, if that makes sense, where like one imprints on the other and vice versa. And then you just keep it moving and you keep making music. And it's just a cool thing that was part of that process. And it doesn't have to be any grander a statement than that, like, I think that's just a nice way to do it. Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, man. It makes me want to do another fundraiser. There's certainly some causes that could use it these days. 100%, man. See what else I could. No shortage of them. Yeah. So when did you start being associated with the term color bass? Because I think of you, when I think of that term, you're one of the people I think about. Like, there's a few names that I think commonly get associated with that term, but were you there kind of at the forefront of it? I don't know the timeline exactly. So color bass was created by Chime, who's another artist in that kind of space. Yeah, he's been on this podcast before. Has he? Yeah, pre-pandemic, actually. We got together in LA. It was a fun chat. Word. Yeah, he's awesome. He's a really good dude. But anyway, he had started the term to kind of, I feel like in 2016 through 2018, there started to be like a big divide in terms of like melodic music and heavy music in the bass scene, right? Like, I feel like back in the day, like the old Flux stuff and the old Skrillex stuff, it was like there was a mix of melodic stuff going on and, heavy basses. Yeah. But at some point there was a split and there were more atonal tunes like Tear Out. And, obviously with Half Blood, I'm doing a little bit more atonal things with songs like Anxiety and that. But color bass was supposed to be something that fused the two together into one, like back in the old days. And so Rushdown was kind of the record label that was the quote unquote home of color bass. And I think the first time someone made a chord bass was the Azor remix of Sudden Death Berserk, I believe. Then a couple weeks later, he had entered Harvey's remix contest for Wait For Me and got, I think, second place and not even first. But it had these chord growls that nobody had ever heard before. And so color bass was kind of started as a movement of everyone trying to figure out how to imitate that chord growl, but Eric was very like secretive about it at first, right? So as a result, a lot of innovation was occurring there. Like, how can we mesh melodics with heaviness? And I got onto Rushdown. Before then, I was just ripping off Monster Cat music. Like, to be completely honest, like a lot of future bass. I don't hate all of my old music. I think it was an accurate reflection of who I was at that time. I think a lot of it's very happy-go-lucky. And there's a couple songs I still bump, actually. False Wishes. I don't know how I wrote that song when I was like 13. It's way too good. Dude, sometimes those are the best, though. Like, I don't know. This is a tangent that I won't go on for too long, but like, sometimes if you go back, this for any artist, if you go back to the really early stuff before you had any idea of what you're doing, there's some gems in there just because you'd have no frame of reference. And so sometimes the ideas can be so wildly just out there that, I don't know, I think it's worth mining your early stuff for anybody who keeps that around. No, absolutely. I feel like I actually have been trying to revert to that like childlike tendency myself.
Like, I think a lot of intermediate producers get very, very caught in like the correct way of doing things. And actually, I just had a lesson with one of my students last night who was like, how do you start projects? Like, I always feel myself putting a bunch of pressure on, like, I have to write a banger first try and I have to make perfect sounds. And I've adopted this workflow more so where I almost like, I have these long sound design jams of just like 5 minutes of a bass, and I'm just like twiddling the knobs. I'm just recording the master, right? And I import that and I just slide and just see what movements naturally stick out to me, right? And so I'm not actually like making the song or being super technical about it. I'm reverting myself to that childlike feeling of before where it's like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I don't know what this is going to sound like. I have no real intention, right? And then I just use the knowledge that I've amassed in the period between me being a kid and me being, I don't know, Skybreak now, right? To kind of polish and like chisel away at it. And I found that is the best way to write music because you can write it super quickly as well when you just take that pressure off yourself and go back to not knowing what you're doing.
Well, I love that because, yeah, that's combining a couple great things artistically. A, the childlike fun of just fucking around on something, not knowing what you're doing. And then B, once you're going back with a more precise lens, then you've limited your choices because what you have to work with is the stuff you just recorded. And so, whatever it's going to be, you have to find it in there. And so that's like a nice little sandbox that sort of limits the like choice paralysis that I think can happen to a lot of people.
No, I think choice paralysis is the worst. And I think I think I used this term last night in the session, actually. It feels like you're collaborating. It's like a genie in the corner of your room, right? That's controlling your computer. And you're collaborating with that genie who is making the choices of like, this is the palette. This is the sounds that are being systematically created. Now it's your turn to work with those instead of like twiddling serum for 45 hours trying to get like the perfect growl. 100%. To me, that's a lot more inspiring and it yields more creativity than just sitting there fucking tweaking.
Did you use that method on Half-Blood a lot?
100%. Yeah. Well, Half-Blood was a special case because it's such a groove heavy album. So I would often start by making the percussion, but same deal. Like, at my Berkeley lecture, I went into this actually, but I'm a big fan of like recording your desktop audio, like everything going on, because you can consolidate that in, right? And what I would do is I'd pull up my sample browser, which is just every single sample that I've downloaded into my library. And I would just record me flicking through different hi-hats and different shakers, just like not putting thought into it, but just like you get this long jam of like,
right.
And then you get something that sounds kind of like that. And then you drag that into a sampler. And now you've got 22 to 30 sounds that you can make a groove out of. Instead of going through and picking one individual hi-hat, now you've got them all and you can just build a groove out of MIDI. And then later we can complement that with a kick or snare that hits or like little ghost percussion hits. So it's the same kind of deal of like trusting the genie. Like, oh boy, like what sounds is the genie going to bring me today to write a song out of? But Stone Cold especially was made out of this. I was having a conversation with one of my friends. I think it was Paper Sky. I was like, bro, remember Looper Band? Like, remember before the days of Splice where Looper Band was all we had for royalty-free samples? He's like, yeah. I'm like, dude, like, I wonder what kind of shit we got on there. So I went there. I was like very deep into the writing process of the album. And I just typed in UK grime acapellas. And I found this, like, frankly, quite dreadful one, which was, like, it was like, I'm the Stone Cold Killer. Everybody knows I'm illa. You know, like, I don't know. It was really bad. But I was like, well, let me try my technique here. So I just chopped out that little Stone Cold Killer bar. I sped it up. And then I, like, cycled through the phrases until I could make a new phrase, which is hit him with the flows of the Stone Cold Killer. That's combining like 4 different sections of the sample, but through just slip tooling and picking this random sound, like it inspired probably one of my favorite tunes off the entire album. And then Sub 10 took what I had written and wrote his own bars on it. And it was sick. So yeah, I'd say I used it quite a bit on Half-Blood.
That's fun, man. That's fun. Are you able to, again, side tangent, have you spent enough time in the UK? Can you code switch and do a UK accent when you're over there?
Absolutely. Oh, that was really bad, really. Oh fuck. I feel like I have to ease into it, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
not
it probably helps
incredible
when
at it.
everyone else around you is talking that way too.
Yeah. Well, personally, I feel like it's a lot more impressive, a bit more of a party trick when you're with a bunch of Americans, and then you slip into the accent because none of them have a perception of what it's actually supposed to sound like.
That's
I feel
true.
like UK people have grown up around a lot more American media, so they can do an American accent quite well. But most Americans are actually pretty terrible at doing an English one. But anyway, Americans think it's great, and then when you go to the UK, you get the piss absolutely taken out of you.
Of
I'm
course.
talking bare taken out. So, yeah.
I love that. Well, wait, I mean, we should talk about the UK for a second because that, is the other half of Half-Blood.
The other half?
So, like, how much time were you spending over there as a kid, like the formative years when you're sort of like learning what your musical taste is and finding your identity? Were you spending like significant amounts of time over there hearing a lot of UK stuff?
So it wasn't extremely significant. I spent about a month a year. I continued to spend about a month a year there my entire life. Like we do 2 weeks in the summer, 2 weeks at the end of the year. And then occasionally we go like a third time.
That's still a lot, though, especially when you're a kid.
Still quite a bit. Yeah, absolutely. I'd say it was extremely formative out there. I mean, I think I've made it seem in the promo like I quite literally did like back and forth every week, but it definitely was not like that. It was a lot more sparse than that, but it was enough to really get a feel for the culture. I feel like, less so. I mean, obviously lately the music from the UK has really, really inspired me. And I think electronic music, not specifically bass music, but electronic music has a little bit more of a mainstream presence there than it does in the US at this particular point. So through that, it's like you can go to a general store and get like a soda or something. You hear like a drum and bass record or a jungle beat, and you'll be like, yo, what the heck? This doesn't happen in the States. So maybe that subconsciously inspired me, but more so I think what was really formative for me was just the aesthetics of going to London so much. Like even just a little rusty village that I won't name so I don't dox myself that my grandparents live in that we stay in. It's like just it's different, right? Like I associate it with walking through there late at night, street lights, it's misty, there's ivy hanging everywhere. Every green is just a touch more saturated because it just rains so goddamn often. And you're walking through these little footpaths between two houses and you watch like a little fox running across, like that's the environment that I would grow up in when I'd go over there. And for me, it's an aesthetic that I really, really fuck with. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's not something you can get. I mean, okay, everything I mentioned you can probably get in the States in isolation, but there's a certain sugariness to the air as well. And those like the footpaths between houses with the hanging ivy and all the roads are just quite small and the street lights are there and the cars are tinier. Like, I don't know, like everything combined is just such a vibe.
Well, it's so much older than anything in the States, so I think that's part of it too.
It fills me with a sort of wanderlust, if that makes sense. Like it feels lonely there, but in a beautiful way. Like I'm spitballing into a bunch of random bullshit directions.
It's actually very interesting because I wrote down something kind of similar to this and I didn't really know how to ask it, but you're sort of touching on it where I was listening to Half-Blood and even some of your older music too. I think you're very good at balancing sort of like genuine emotion and nostalgia and like kind of this like hazy, wistful feeling with, heavy sounds and aggressive bass and all that. And with like the dance floor in mind. And it's something that I do not find in a lot of US dubstep. I'm not like the biggest current US dubstep fan in terms of like the mainstream stuff. Yeah, I figured. But it's the question, I guess, is like, so, we got here because you were talking about like just this vibe of a place that you have this fondness for and spent time in. And I think there's something about your music that references that feeling that's sort of this like wistful, nostalgic, hazy, liminal, I don't know. I wrote down all these words, none of which have any technical meaning. But I guess my question is like, have you found any way technically to produce those feelings? Or is it more about kind of putting yourself in that setting IRL, and then that just sort of seeps into the choices you make when you're in the studio?
So absolutely, I think it's a combination of the two. Actually, I'm very excited. This is a good question. I think in a lot of my older work, like these two silly little EPs, Lumina and Moonglow, I kind of invented these environments in my head from the video games I had been playing a lot of at the time. Like in Moonglow, I had a very specific setting in my head that I had like invented for each song, and that reflects in a lot of the visual direction. So, for example, when I was writing Crystal Heart, I'm just throwing shit at the wall and getting into a flow state. But eventually, like as I'm working, I almost start to imagine my surroundings as the environment, right? Like it's weird as heck, but I really do just feel like I'm in this purple cavern with purple lava hanging off of the wall and these big crystals everywhere. And I'm searching for this blue heart, right? And I'm like hopping platform after platform to get there. Like that's what the environment felt like. And so as soon as I start to imagine myself there, I start making creative decisions that take me closer to there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, kind of like soundtracking a vision almost.
Yeah, precisely. But these are all just me imagining these sorts of environments. And then it's the same deal with Lightbringer, which I had dropped on Monster Cat about 2.5 years ago now. Actually, in the VIP, I tried to create the scene that I was imagining in my head. But I'm just picturing, it's inspired by a dungeon from Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, of which I am a gigantic fan. Underrated game in the franchise, by the way.
I haven't played it.
It's a sick one. But there's a dungeon called Ancient Cistern, where the top half is this kind of Buddhist golden temple thing. And the bottom half is this like hellish underworld, right? But there's a water motif between the both, and you like solve a puzzle in the bottom to get the other one to open up. And the whole dungeon is supposed to represent almost like a duality. And like for this heavenly place above to function, you need to venture into the underworld and fix shit up there. Yeah, like I don't know, it's like a weirdly deep dungeon. There's a whole video essay about it. But anyway, in the case of those songs, I'm imagining myself in these environments. But Half-Blood's a little different because it's rooted more so in realism, I think. Like I have been in the environments that Half-Blood is supposed to take place in, right? Like I have been on the subway by myself at 2 a.m, a little bit scared for my life, but also in that lovely sleep-deprived haze that feels so nostalgic to me. I have walked home from a rave in the UK at 4 a.m. down liminal ass streets, and I just have this thing embedded in my head of this fox running underneath like a street light when it's just a little bit misty. I saw that scene like December 2023, and it stuck with me, and it informed a lot of my decisions in Half-Blood. Like I actually lived in these settings, and I can put myself back in them and figure out like what the sounds were like there. So I don't know. I find escapism and realism are equally fun to write in the context of, but yeah. And then also the thing about Half-Blood is some of the songs were written actually in the UK, like Antimatter with PVC, for example. I had most of the instrumental done, but the two of us booked a session in Croydon, a couple of blocks from where the old Big Apple Records, which is the vinyl store where dubstep was invented, basically, by Koki, Benga, DMZ, Scream, Mala, Hatcha, like those people. We actually like booked the studio session maybe like 4 or 5 blocks from there. So just the very environment of like having checked it out and seen what it's become, like a place without even a plaque, just like a fucking hair salon, right? Like that scene informed my decisions in the studio and helped me almost come to epiphanies while I was writing it. Like nothing really matters except for the fact that, we're here and we're like escaping in this base, right? So
yeah. I know. Yeah. I love that because it's like, oh, this place that has tons of personal significance to me, maybe the world has moved on or like has been forgotten by the place where it's from, but I'm here honoring that thing. And, it's like, what does legacy really matter? It's like it only is carried on in the people who are inspired by it. And I like that, man. That's really interesting perspective. And it's funny too, this is I don't even know if I have a point, but you just made me think about talking about escapism versus realism. And something I've been thinking about a lot lately, I'll see if I can tie this back into music, but I'm not sure, is that like, because I've always been an escapist at heart, I like jump into a sci-fi novel or a game or a movie or whatever it is and just live in a different world. But then as I've gotten older too, I realize more and more that the real world is always the inspiration for all of these worlds I thought I was escaping to. And that if you look around the real world, more times than not, you're like, oh, the escape is right here in front of me. Like all these things I thought I was escaping into, they're actually part of the real world.
Yeah.
And sometimes just being in the real world can actually give you that feeling more than the quote unquote escape would. I don't know. Something about that story about the studio in Croydon made me think about that too, where it's like, oh no, like if we want to get woo-woo about it, it's like, oh no, the magic is already here. It's not something we really have to invent. It's just kind of waiting for us to show up and find it,
No, precisely. That's exactly that's what Half-Blood is like subconsciously about. That's like the underground point, right? Like I was an insane escapist at heart. Like I've never left my bedroom. If you look at some old photos of me, I'm dressed like a fucking slob. I mean, if you look at these two projects, I can point out the inspirations on both of them quick, like Princess Mononoke, Ori and the Blind Forest, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, right? Hollow Knight, Undertale, One Shot, like these are all inspired by that. But Half-Blood, what is that inspired by? Not really any games, right? It's inspired by me getting my shit together in 2022, getting real life friends in New York and London and living experiences with them, missing the final train home and figuring out how the fuck to get back, right? Taking those walks late at night and coming to my own epiphanies and getting the scene in, right? Like climbing to the top of a mountain, like these are things that fill me with that same wanderlust. And, I haven't completely let go of escapism. I'm playing Hollow Knight Silk Song right now, and it's fantastic.
Oh, great. And me
right?
neither, to be clear. I mean, yeah, I'd still do that all the time, but...
Yeah. I think my next project will probably be a combination of escapism and realism. I would imagine, right?
I think I'm honestly making the argument that they're kind of the same thing, or that they're kind of two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, I mean, they really are. I mean, no art comes from nowhere, right?
Yeah, so. Exactly. Hearing you talk about it, because I was listening to Half-Blood earlier today, getting ready to talk to you. I'd listened before, but I wanted it to be kind of fresh in my mind. And I think one of the reasons I like it so much is that it combines, I mean, first of all, just good musicality, like interesting songs and choices and good melodies and all of that, with this sort of emotion and thoughtfulness that we're talking about, where you can really feel like the inspirations and the places and all that sort of thing. But the third thing that we haven't talked about yet that I wrote down is just, production wise, engineering wise, this is something I think you've also always been very good at, is it's so well produced in such a, and when I say well produced, like there's plenty of good producers in the world, but this is more about like, it just feels really nice to listen to. The only other album I've heard this year that kind of gave me the same feeling was Skrillex Quest for Fire, where it's like, there's a lot going on. It's complicated technically, and there's all kinds of genres, and sometimes it's really chaotic and heavy and whatever, but like throughout all of it, everything just sits so well in the mix that beyond the songs themselves, it's just sonically very pleasing to me. And that was something, I mean, I just wanted to pay you that compliment because I think very rare.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Not every day I get compared to Skrillex. So.
Dude, 100%. I think I was trying to think of a way to say this so that it didn't end up sounding like some kind of comparison, but I think if we were in an alternate universe, no DJ hierarchy exists in that alternate universe, and you were Skrillex in this alternate universe, and Skrillex put out this album, I think people would be like, this is a good Skrillex album. It's, if that makes sense. Like there's something about what you're doing that, I don't know, like, can you put a finger to like, is there something you're doing production wise, engineering wise, that you think is particularly unique that maybe you are doing that a lot of other people aren't doing? Because there's something about the sonic quality of the work you put out that really distinguishes it beyond the songwriting and beyond the sort of like sound design element, if that makes sense.
So I had two philosophies in the mixing process of Half-Blood. And if you listen to any of my work before then, you notice I used a lot of analyzers. A lot of the mixes are very like flat and perfect, right? Like they're made to be. And I'm really glad that I had learned how to do that first before being able to be a little bit more creative, like I'm about to go into. What I did with Half-Blood was I essentially it's a very, very dark album in terms of like tonal balance, if that makes sense. Like a lot of dubstep we associate with being very like shrill, high-end, trebly, stuff like that, at least in 2025, right? But a lot of deep dub, which is what I was listening to research the album, obviously is very low-end focused. But most of those old songs don't really work in modern DJ sets because it's like you have like a and all of a sudden, like there's not like a middle point between them, right?
Right.
So what I ended up doing was I ended up kind of rolling off a lot of top end of most of my elements in these songs. I mean, obviously the more heavy cuts like Star Cannon and Stone Cold have a lot of high end in the basses. But everything else is like barely low pass, and I'm layering a vinyl crackle over everything. The entire album has a vinyl crackle, and what this is doing is it's putting everything into the same space, and it's acting as almost like a buffer point. Like I can compare this to graphic design. It's like a noise layer, right? Like you have an image with a bunch of different textures, and let's say you want to combine picture my face with a plant, right? But the plant picture is 6,000 by 6,000 and the picture of my face is 200, right? It's going to look fucking horrible. But if you put a bunch of noise on there and you kind of commit to it as a stylistic choice, then the two will blend much better. So that's what I'm doing in the high end of these songs, and that's why the mixes feel really glued and consistent. The other thing I did was, again, to get that perfect tonal balance curve that I was striving for in my earlier works, I would do all these like crazy intricate EQs and multi-band compressors and just like absolutely go through the ringer of production techniques. But here, I made a conscious choice that if something required more than 5 effects, I would change the sound. So as a result, everything that's going in is just very, very natural and organic, right? And I'd be going more off of vibes than analyzers. Another point is I switched to open back headphones right before making it, and this just has a lot more low-end dynamics naturally because, as you can see, there's like about an inch of space for air to exist before the amplifiers reach your ears, and that's enough to give you a nicer perception of low-end dynamics. So it just was a lot easier for me to differentiate what's actually happening in the low end. So
that's really interesting.
Yeah.
And did you know ahead of time that you wanted to sort of create that, like glue them together that way?
With the vinyl crackles?
Yeah, and just like in general, like going into writing an album, it's interesting because very few people I've talked to have talked about it in that sort of holistic way of like, doing something to all of the tracks to try to glue them together versus like just making a bunch of songs and then trying to, see how they fit together later, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I mean, for me, it was very, very half and half. I think this always kind of started as like a fun little side project. And that vinyl crackle thing is very much a trope of like, burial style garage, right? Like it's just drenched in vinyl crackle, but it's not as done in bass music, I've found. To be honest, like the first 5 or 6 songs that I wrote for Half-Blood were just kind of like in the void. Like I was kind of in denial. I was supposed to write like a Botanica core color bass album, but that just didn't fucking happen because I just was not inspired to do that, I guess. Maybe that'll happen down the road. Who knows? I'm kind of enjoying writing UKG. But I feel like the conscious decisions almost just pop up naturally just from what I'm gravitating towards. You know what I mean? Like I'd been doing this fairly consistently on a few songs, and I'd been listening to a lot of UK music. So naturally that started to come together. And then by the time I got about 5-6 tracks deep, I was like, okay, like we have a thing now. Let's continue. Let's see what I'm doing in these songs and then apply these to other contexts, right?
Well, and you've mentioned a couple times now your students as well, and I know you do a bunch of mentoring and teaching stuff. Should we talk about that a little more? Is that something?
Yeah.
Are you looking for students at the moment?
I mean, sure. Fuck it. That's like one of my primary sources of income. I've got a Patreon, which has been really good for me. Every single week on Wednesday nights. So tomorrow, as of recording this podcast, at 5 p.m. Eastern, I just get on a call and I will guaranteed review everyone's tunes that decide to send them in. We all get in a Discord chat. I drag it in. I run it through some analyzers. I give some honest thoughts. Sometimes it's about the engineering. I've even like written out little piano parts for people before to be like, this chord progression will improve your song or whatever. And so that's really helpful. I also do private lessons. I'm always looking for new students, to be honest. I always try to cram them into the schedule how I can. A, because it pays really well. And B, because I feel like I'm giving back to the community in some regard. And I think there's a lot of bullshit out there, like a lot of kind of snake oil salesmen that say this one EQ trick will change your life, and a lot of like teachers that will bring in artists and teach them how to like commit to like the mold, right? Like, here's how you make a perfect melodic dubstep song. But I really, really strive to look for like intermediate students that have like maybe even been through a YouTube course or something, that are looking to come into their own in terms of like uniqueness, right? Like I straight up, like, I don't take beginners anymore. Like I need someone to have 2-3 years of experience. But I think what I really excel in is like taking what's exciting about someone's music and just figuring out how they can like really lean into that. And I just had one of my students release on NCS a couple months ago. I think Monster Cat's looking at him now, which is crazy. Oh, wow. And then I had the student that I went down to DC to catch his first show. So I'm super proud of him. Son Holo started playing out his stuff, and like, yeah, it's really, really gratifying, to be honest. Like sometimes it's even more gratifying than my own achievements, because I'm just like, fuck yeah, like it's my dude, you know?
Oh, dude, that's so cool. That's so cool to hear about. It's funny. I was actually when I was like reading old interviews and like old press about you, and I found an old Reddit AMA that you had done from a couple of years ago. And someone had asked you, I can't remember exactly how they phrased it, but they were like, do you ever think music will become your full-time job? Something like that. And I thought that was funny because I didn't realize it wasn't at that point. And you had replied that you were in school and getting a degree, but you know, that's what you were working towards. And just because I didn't know, I was curious, like, how did that end up? Did you end up getting that degree?
So yeah, I went to a 4-year for a semester. I've told the story a million times, but the two things that led me to drop out were I got booked to play EDC Vegas. I got assigned a fucking 5-page essay day of my flight. And I had written to my professor immediately after and asked for an extension, and he didn't get back to me until the Sunday. So I had to sit in a Harrah's Casino Starbucks, just hungover off my ass, writing this 5-page paper on like indigenous music, which like maybe I would have thought was dope if I wasn't playing EDC that weekend. But like I was just like, oh my God. And the other thing was I got booked by Dabin to go on tour with him. And my financial advisor tried to convince me that a 35-date, all expenses paid for bus tour was somehow a worse career decision than sticking at their 4-year college and learning how to mic songs. So those two factors. But I did actually finish a degree recently at like a local community college, just as like a nice fallback. My parents are both very prestigious academics and stuff. And so growing up in that family, I did kind of always promise to them, like, I will try my best to get a degree no matter what's going on in my music. And I finally did. So nice. I've got a very... Hopefully I never have to use it, but I've got an associate's degree in marketing that can be pivoted into a bachelor's, and I can at any point, and I can finish in 2 years. And then
that's cool, man. I would imagine something in that probably helps you thinking about the business end of your music career too, right?
You'd really think that, wouldn't you? No, it's
yeah, it doesn't always work out that way.
It's a little outdated. I think if I had gone to like an actual 4-year school and gotten like the full college experience with like brilliant professors, like it would have been dope. But I frankly, like, in all fairness, I don't think college is a thing you should half-ass. You should either, like, if there's any doubts in your mind about it and you're taking like a lesser curriculum, just like, I wouldn't bother.
Yeah, I would agree with that too.
due to my circumstances and the fact that I'm very privileged to live in a house with academics that were very willing to like pay for my tuition and stuff, like it was worth it in my regard. But I don't buy the whole thing of like, oh, you go to college and then you figure it out, because it's just like,
that's also an outdated model, I think. I think that is kind of how it used to work, or at least it could work that way. I don't think it can work that way anymore. I think that is an outdated model. And it's like, not worth going to a fancy college, getting in a bunch of debt with no guarantee of a job on the other side. And at this point where we're at in 2025, I mean, there is definitely no guarantee unless you're in like a very specific career path that requires specific schooling, you know?
Or you're really good at bullshitting on conservative TikTok.
Oh, yeah.
Get that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you're good at that, you're all set. You can turn off this podcast right now. Wait, the other thing I wanted to ask you is very random, but I saw you had a podcast for 6 episodes.
Oh, my God. Yeah, that's a deep cut. The Skycast. Yes. I can't believe you could handle doing this. It was so much work.
It's so much work. It really is.
You think when you go in, it's just like, oh, you know what? Like we get on the boys, we have some conversations about their upcoming releases, and then, you know, you just put it on Spotify and then like that's it. But no, it's so much more than that. Like asking people to be guests, making sure that you have social media content ready to go for them. And oh my God, it was so much. But I had a brief stint with my buddy Dan Paper Skies. I think we had like 6 episodes, and we were just losing money on it because neither of us were very good at video editing at that point. I think if we tried it now, it might be easier because both of us have a lot more experience. But we would pay people. We'd pay this dude, our friend Roaming. He's still a very talented animator and stuff. But we'd pay him, I think, $50 to $80 just to like stick an overlay on and like make the intro and stuff, and just like look through to chop out the bits that we need to chop out, right? And that was it. And so we just lose a bunch of money on every episode.
Yeah.
$80 doesn't sound like much anymore because like whatever, we're adults. But we were like 17 and 19 when we did that. And that's not pocket change when you're
dude, $80 and that's a week too if you're doing weekly episodes, you know?
Yeah, it was a lot. Yeah. But you know, I don't have any regrets about it. It was, I think for what it's worth, it was pretty good. I think if we did it now, you know what?
I haven't actually, I didn't get a chance to listen to any of the episodes, but just seeing the guests you had on there, I was like, for anyone who's really into the color-based scene in general and finds that kinds of sound interesting, I bet it's a really cool kind of historical document, because it's a, you know, it's not the smallest scene in the world, but it's certainly like a niche. And for anyone who's interested in it, I mean, you've got pretty much all the figureheads of that scene in a little like 6 episode season there, you know?
Yeah, no, I remember how stoked we were to get a Temanite on and stuff. Yeah. Damn, I like actually forgot we like pulled this good.
No, I saw the names. I was like, yeah, they pretty much got most of the people I associate with that scene in there. For anyone, I bet it would be a cool document for anyone who's into what you guys do to go back and listen to.
Dang, maybe I'll go back and listen.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I keep saying I'm going to do that for this podcast. I never do.
Yeah, no, that's how it be. Maybe I've got a long drive after this. Maybe I'll put one on my drive.
There you go. Why not? Well, dude, speaking of, I'll let you go in a second, but is there anything we haven't talked about? Anything else we should say about the album or what's coming after, or anything you're excited about that you want to get out there?
So yeah, you know, coming up this month, I'm playing my first ever Brownies and Lemonade show, which was actually one of my goals for next year. I like set a mental list of like where I want to be by 2028, which only I know about, and my manager, but like, yeah. But this was on my 2026 goal to do like a double cross or like a brownie show. And the fact that we're doing it this year is just like a real testament to how this record's doing. I'm like super surprised. I don't think it's not definitely not like a crazy streaming giant, right? But that was never the intention. This is like a more artistic and clubby experience. So, but I've just been super thankful. I feel like this is my first time in years having a degree of like hype behind my project. I feel like I've had a degree of respect for a while, which is always great. I'm always going to try my best to maintain that through like making cool art and like fully realized visions. But like, I know it feels weird to be like hyped again, I guess. I'm like getting used to it. I'm like, oh, okay, like I'm finally like a cool kid on the block. That feels weird. And then I go pick up Hollow Knight Silk Song, and I remind myself that I'm very much not a cool kid on the block.
But
okay.
That's the best, man. You can be both at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, as long as you hold on to your authenticity and, you are what makes you, like, even when you're not cool, you're still cool, right?
Yep.
I never want to cosplay as someone that I'm not. Tried that, sucked ass. Never doing it again.
Wait, who did you cosplay as?
No, I more so meant like cosplaying as like a trendy, distilled version of yourself on like a deeper.
No, that's what I meant too.
Level.
Of like, what version of yourself were you doing?
Oh, I really, really wanted to just do the dubstep DJ circuit in 2022 and just do like, rhythm drops and. Yeah, stupid as fuck.
Yeah, dumb it down a little. Yeah,
just becoming a more like marketable version of myself.
Right.
And so then I went and said, okay, let me just go and pretend to be Burial, the most marketable artist ever. And then weirdly, it's actually worked. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, I've got that. I've got the Virtual Riot remix coming out next month, which I'm super excited about because again, that's an artist that has inspired me since the day that I picked up my first ever little DAW. Got a tune with Slander and Ty Dolla $ign, which we've been teasing for a while.
Oh, nice.
Just like a crazy collab. I'm like stoked to be a part of it. And I'm just going to be making what makes me feel whole. I've been working really hard on the Half-Blood live show. So just hoping we can start getting to a point where we can bring it around to cities as headliners. Because I think I'm going back to our first little topic. I feel like I'm finally at a point where I probably confidently could say something with a show that's actually worth checking out.
I love that. Is there anything, without giving away anything you don't want to give away, do you have thoughts beyond sort of just like the music and the visuals? Like, are you thinking of other elements?
Like stage tricks and stuff?
I don't know, just anything. I'm interested what you would want to do at a full live show.
So, I mean, I very much want to do very curated visuals, if that makes sense. So, like, when we released the album, every single song has its own icon. So, like, Anxiety has this little scary-looking dust bunny thing, right? And Stone Cold has like a snowflake. So the goal would be, if I had an infinite budget, make like live edits and just crazy like doubles and callbacks to like older music, and then have those motifs combined with the snowflakes and icon work and stuff, and just making VJ loops that like fit the tone and aesthetic of each tune. I mean, ultimately, it would be really cool to make like this subway network come to life even harder, like different sections of the sets or like different stops and stuff. Like, there's a lot of ideas that are brewing in my head. Ultimately, like this Brownie show was admittedly pretty last minute, so I had to bring this live show to life a lot faster than I wanted to, but I'm really proud of how it came out, and I've got about a week before it happens as of recording this. So
that's
hopefully
cool,
it's not a train wreck.
I'll definitely look for some clips of that after it happens. And yeah, that's awesome, man. Shout out to Brownies. They'll take good care of you. That's a great team over there.
No, they're fantastic. I actually like dream promoters. I played direct support for More Kismet like 3 years ago with them. Actually, it's really funny. Like, I had a conversation with them. I was like, yo, you guys are really cool. Like, you ever consider booking Color Base for one of your like LA events? Because this show was in New York. And I'm just like, to be honest, we're a lot more focused on like trap and UKG and stuff, because that needs a lot more love in LA, and that's what's inspiring us, right? So I was like, oh, okay. So in that state, I would have never played a Brownie show. But alas, we've done a 180 quite successfully. So
yeah, I love it,
cool.
man. I love it. Well, and that's another great thing about Brownies too. Like, shout out to Chad, who's a good buddy of mine. But it's one thing I've always liked about him and the way Brownies does all their stuff is they really do have a vision for it. Like, and they will tell you, and they're very upfront about like, this is what we want to be pushing. This is what's inspiring us right now. It's like, it's a lot less opportunistic than a lot of promoters. And I've always really appreciated that about them.
No, I mean, they've put on some of the coolest artists that probably would not be touring if it weren't for them. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, they single-handedly, I think, I mean, okay, single-handedly is a stretch because I love Isonoc. I think they're two of the coolest fucking people on the planet Earth. I love their music. But I think if Brownies hadn't taken a chance and just pushed the shit out of them in LA and San Diego, they wouldn't have gotten the spark that led to all this.
Oh,
you know
there's no
I mean?
question that's true. That's
because trap, when they started blowing up, like trap was dead as shit. Like no one was playing trap anymore. It was like, okay, Festival Trap had its moment in like 2016, and then you had Sable, but the releases weren't streaming, and it was like, okay, like whatever. And then ISO, like ISO was dropping heat, like really, really good trap stuff. But again, it was only like contained into that scene. And then Brownies comes along and is like, hey, let's make these masterfully curated events where we literally resurrect that old school warehouse ravey vibe, give people an experience, make tickets cheap as shit, and just see where it goes. And then suddenly everybody wants a piece of the pie. And that almost trickles down to all the other trap talent, like Jewels, and who else is killing it? Like Frosttop, and
yeah, there's so many, man.
Yeah. Just like, I mean, you could name like a billion people, but it's really inspiring. And I really do attribute that to Brownies.
Yeah,
and
100%.
Yeah, it's just like, it's an honor to now get to do my own thing. Who knows? Maybe this will kickstart some shit.
Yeah, dude,
we'll see.
I love it. And you mentioned too, this is the last thing I'll say and we'll go, but you mentioned the like leaning into the subway motif for the Half-Blood live show, just because we didn't really talk about that in the context of Half-Blood. What's the attraction to the subway?
The short answer is train autism. The second, the long answer is...
You have diagnosed a heavy case of train autism.
Yeah, I unfortunately do. Well, I have ADHD, but they're so closely linked anyway. So like...
Yeah. No,
I like to call it train autism.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah.
That's the vibes. But the longer answer is in this kind of past 3-year period where I've been finding myself, and again, going back to before, rooting myself in realism and letting that wanderlust that I had adopted from adventure games like Zelda and Hollow Knight finally seep into the real world and the cities that I've grown up around, but been a little too scared to explore, right? The subway has been just like the constant, right? Like, oh, I'm going on an adventure. We're on the subway, right? Like, bam. Or I'm coming home from a show late at night. We got to ride the subway. And even as a kid, I remember being really fascinated by the little shapes at the airport. Like, you have the signs and you just have these hyper accessible things, right? Hyper accessible designs where anyone can tell where a bathroom is. You go anywhere in the world and they throw a bathroom sign, you know where to go, right? Like,
yeah.
But there's something about that like metro aesthetic that has always just sort of resonated with me, but was very outlandishly different to the whole like forest magic nature thing that was going on for my other music. So this was a fun way to explore that. And those two factors just kind of compounded. And I thought it was sick, right? And then another thing is on a deeper level for this project, I love the aesthetic of subways, especially in New York, in how they reflect the vibe of a city, right? Like you have this really clean, universally accessible designs of like, Helvetica, bold font, and, the big lines in the maps that are designed to be followable. And they kind of look like the veins of a heart. So I've got like a set visual like that. But then everything is just spray painted by the youth and the culture and the real people that live there. So you have this design that's supposed to be this utopian version of what the city is supposed to look like, right? And then, of course, the youth and like the real counterculture like fucks it up with their own regard. And I just thought that duality was super fucking cool. And so it's the same deal with this album. You have a combination of these like pure, nice UKG things, but then they get gritted up with these little color-based fills and the loud, crunchy subs and stuff, which is like the counterculture punching up at it. So
I like that.
That's my spiel with the subway.
No, that's so cool. I'm glad I asked. I love that. Yeah, I've never really thought about the subway that way before, but you're right. It becomes, it sort of starts as like a utopian ideal, and then it sort of turns into like a group project, like everyone in the community sort of colors it in their own way, whether they're using it or defacing it or, whatever it is. Like, everyone in the city contributes to what it ends up being eventually.
Yeah. Precisely.
I like that, man. That's awesome. Well, dude,
Yeah,
I mean,
dude.
we could keep talking. You're fun to talk to, but I think we kind of did the thing here, man. And I want to let you
Yeah.
go. You got anything else you want to say before we get out of here?
No, I mean, just like, thank you for having me on. Like, I've been listening for a little while, so it's cool to finally do mine. This is one of my favorite podcasts I've been on. Like, I always appreciate when someone like puts in the research and is educated on the questions.
Oh, dude, 100%. Thank you for doing it, man. No, I've been following your music for a long time, so this is a nice moment for me as well. I'll let you go and get on the road, but thanks for doing this, man. It's awesome talking to you.
Yeah, super great. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day.
You too, dude. I'll talk to you soon. Peace out,
Take
man.
care. Bye-bye.
Bye.